officer Katrina passed away last Friday, and tomorrow would have been her birthday. It was very sad news. Anytime you lose a member of your team, it's incredibly sad. It hit me very hard because I thought to myself, she's about 8 months older than I am, and so to lose someone so young, it's never a good time. But it really hit home. And also, in speaking with her mother shared that Katrina spoiled her to death. She said she was a great daughter and really spoiled her mom. And what resonated with me was how important we are, not just to each other, but the other people in our lives and in our families. And it puts into perspective for me. Sometimes we sweat the little stuff. We spend a lot of time, concerned about things that in the grand scheme of things, maybe not that relevant. And so it was very sad news. Her funeral arrangements are her viewing is this Sunday and her funeral is on Monday. But I did just want to pause and recognize a wonderful woman, member of our family, member of this community. Her mother said, she kept her head down, she worked hard, and she really cared about what she did for this college. And so I just wanted to start off in recognizing not just what she did for the college, the memories that we all have of her, the legacy she leaves behind, but just as a reminder that none of us know if tomorrow is promised to us. And so it just helped me to understand, make the best of today. It puts into perspective for me what is really important in the unknown amount of time that we have. But I really just wanted to take a moment to recognize Katrina and what she may have meant to all of us, the contribution she made to this college, and to share that her loss is felt among many of us. And I hope to not have to make these kinds of statements very often, but it always hurts when you lose a member of your family. And she was definitely a beloved member of the Thomas Nelson Community College family. So I just wanted to take a moment and recognize Katrina and the great work that she did for the college before we go on with business as usual, to just recognize this person that we lost. And so I will turn things over back to Ada. But as you go through the rest of your weekend, just take the time to say something nice to someone you care about and someone you work with, because we are special. And what we have to give to this college is fantastic, but I bet we all wish that she could have been with her a little bit longer. And so be kind to one another, be thankful for one another. And when things become a thorn in your side, just ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, how important is this thing? And that's all. Thank you. You know what the next slide should be, and I do believe it's an introduction. Yeah, there you go. There's an introduction. Thank you, Ada.
Yeah, thank you for that. And sorry for my delay. I actually having a moment. It is difficult to sort of follow a tribute like that. So I think it's always hard to manage grief and loss. And I know she really touched a lot of folks here. So thank you for the intro. Hi, everyone. For those who I have not met yet, my name is Ada Badgley. I use she, her pronouns. There has been a lot of activity since our last meeting on December 3rd, but I wanted to start with a couple notes about our format for today. So we asked for feedback after our last town hall, and we understand that it was a little different from previous town halls, and we sort of wanted to share with you some of our format wise. And so we have a lot of information to share. We have gotten so many requests of updates that folks are interested in hearing directly from the presenters, and we want to make sure that we have enough time to present all that information. We want to respect all of your time. We know you have full plates, and there's so many of you on the call right now who are taking time out of your day to be here and to participate in this. And so we want to respect that. We have muted everyone, and we have stopped the chat just for now, and that will be just while we are presenting information so that the presenters can get all the way through their information. I know that everyone who has facilitated a class or taught something and you're trying to get through the information, but chats are coming through and folks are talking can be really distracting. So we want to try to see if this will work where we're limiting distractions for our presenters. Once each sort of segment of the presentation is completed, we are going to open the chat back up, and we will open the opportunity for Q&A. If you have a question, you can raise your hand and you can ask it. And so with the feedback that we got from our last town hall, we wanted to make these adjustments so that it felt a little bit more like a give and take, but also allows the presenters to cover their information fully. And hopefully they will answer your questions before you even have to ask them. So with that being said, I also wanted to share a little bit about the Great Ideas portal. So that is something that we launched in November, and we have been receiving lots and lots of great ideas. And I have had the privilege to meet with so many of you and discuss the ideas that have been submitted, get more context, get more information. And I will share with you, some of them are incredibly simple, right? One of the great ideas was we should all park in the lot out front so that the folks on 64 can see that we're open and we're back for business. That's a great idea. Doesn't need a committee, doesn't need consensus. If you think that's a great idea and you're able to, go ahead and park out front and let everybody know we're back for business. But there's other ideas that are really complex, right? That are one idea was that we needed to create a first-year learning cohort model to better support our incoming students in their transition to college. And that is going to take a lot of collaboration and a lot of work and a lot of conversation about how we might be able to get that off the ground. But it's still a great idea. It's just not one that we can all do starting on Monday. So I've really been enjoying the time getting to know folks and hear about your ideas, fleshing out these solutions. And I appreciate everyone's energy, really thinking about being solution oriented, right? This is an opportunity to say, I recognize that we are sort of repairing some foundational work that needs to be repaired, but I also think we are looking towards the future and trying to find new and creative ways to do the work we do. And there's been so much positivity. And so I just want to say thank you. I will share the link and the QR code at the end, should you get some great ideas as we're sitting here today that you want to share. For those of you who may have shared great ideas and not put your name on it, can't follow up with you. So sorry about that. We will, but we certainly take ideas in that manner. So keep submitting, keep engaging in conversations. A lot of our agenda topics were gained from conversations with our constituency groups, with supervisors, with committee chairs that submitted ideas and said, we really think that folks need to hear about these things. The list that we got to cover today was probably 20 bullet points long. So we tried to prioritize, and we are going to cover 4 primary topics, and we will certainly get to the other things as soon as we can, and we will host another town hall as quickly as possible so that we can share more information with you. So great ideas, keep them going. In terms of what we are going to cover today, we are going to circle back to our last town hall and give you an update about where we stand with enrollment and finances. Not fair to sort of leave you hanging with that. And so we want to make sure that everyone is in the loop on it. We've also got some feedback that it was important for us to address and redress COVID protocols and what the expectations are with that. So we will cover that. Another topic that was high on the list was getting an update about our facilities and some technology changes that have been happening and that are in the works. And last but not least, we are going to hear a little update from our shared governance group to talk about what they've been doing and the great work that they have been doing and plan to do in the future. So hang tight and we will go ahead and get started. I believe that everyone who needs to have the ability to speak has been given that ability. And so I will first give the mic back to Dr. Brannon, and then we will get rolling. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And I will be brief to introduce a gentleman that many of you may have already met, Mr. John Massey, who joined us a little over a month ago as the Associate Vice President for Human Resources and Organizational Development at the college. I know he has been on a tour de force over the last few weeks, getting to meet with you all, hearing some of your great ideas also, and challenges and opportunities and ways that the Human Resources Office and department can really help you or address some of the concerns that you've had. So for those of you who have not yet had a chance to meet Mr. John Massey, I'd like an opportunity to turn the microphone over to him and just have him say hello and greet the group. And I'm sure you'll all have an opportunity to meet him over the next few months and years.
So hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Dr. Brandon, for passing the mic here for me briefly. I won't take up too much time, but I do want to reiterate the phrase listening tour, because it is a nonstop listening tour. The Great Ideas Portal is just one way that we are gathering information about the things that are important to everybody across the campus community. And so I want to make sure that folks know that the mic stays open, that the listening tour continues. It continues next week and next month and next year. And so we do want to hear from you. We do want to know both what's working and where we can be better. So if you have those ideas, certainly reach out to us, let us know. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here and be part of this community and trying to make sure that HR is really the service organization that I believe it to be. So thank you very much and look forward to meeting all of you in the future.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is well. I will try not to be before you long. I will do my very best to try. But what I would like to do today is to provide you with some follow-up information in regards to our short-term strategies in terms of our approach to enrollment management, as well as some noted long-term strategies. Following our last town hall, I ran a report, and that report consisted of the list of students who were enrolled during the fall semester, but who had not yet registered for spring. And so I thought this was some low-hanging fruit. This is a group of students who we can try to reach out to and encourage enrollment for the spring semester. So that report consisted of a little over 2,100 students, 2,154 to be exact. And so in response to that, those students, that list of students, we incorporated a call campaign. And so as a result of that call campaign, we yielded 754 students who actually enrolled for the current semester in which we're in. I'd appreciate those who actually made those calls. They also notated some notes in regards to their interactions with those students. So while we wish the number was higher, some noted feedback that may have contributed to those who didn't enroll, some technical things in terms of we had outdated contact information. Some students reported of personal and financial hardship. Some students were just simply undecided about their plans and their intentions to return to school, while others had plans to just attend another school or transfer, while others relocated out of the area. We also facilitated a registration session. And if you recall, this was an opportunity for students who knew the courses that they needed to register for, but they were unsure in terms of how to do so. And so that session was truly designed to assist students with registering for classes. And at the end of that session, students were supposed to be registered for classes. Attendance was low. but we had faculty and staff present to assist those students. And we facilitated those sessions 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They were hour-long sessions. So as a result of assessing the effectiveness of that program, we have decided that it may be more feasible to facilitate registration sessions following our new student orientation programs. Faculty advising was another initiative where we received great participation from our faculty in regards to advising our students, which offered more access to our students during a peak period. Please note those schedules filled up very quickly, and we actually still have some faculty who are continuing to offer advising to our students. And so we will continue to continue with such initiatives to approach and attack our enrollment situation. Moving on to some noted long-term enrollment plans. If you recall, I indicated that we will develop college-wide recruitment teams. We will develop presentations to suit our targeted audiences. Members will include all individuals across the college. Another noted plan that we plan to implement is something that's referred to Preview Day. This will be an opportunity to showcase our programs to the community. The goal will be to facilitate our preview day during our summer months, late spring, summer months. And let me go back and say some of the feedback that was shared that Ms. Ada referenced. I was glad to hear that we were on the same plan, same page in terms of enrollment strategies. So I do want to note that. We're also going to look into restructuring our recruitment presentations. I do want to note we facilitated a youth night a few weeks ago, and we want to try to spice it up. In other words, we want to do less technical things and begin to sell the student experience, sell the outcome of earning and obtaining one of our degrees. We want to look at the open houses that we facilitate and begin to offer in-person and virtual simulations. So we want to offer some hands-on experiences for students so they get a true feel for the program in which they may be interested in. As I referenced, Youth Night, which occurred January 27th, we actually had faculty and staff who presented. We opened up with admissions. We had presentations from our records and registration area, financial aid, and we ended the night with presentations from our faculty. And during those presentations, we didn't talk about the curriculum. We didn't talk about how many math courses, how many social sciences, the number of credits. That's not what we were selling. We were selling the experience. And so faculty presented on salaries, job opportunities, certain characteristics that are important to be successful in certain careers, where they can work, So this provided, again, students with more of a real world insight in terms of the programs and what it may look like once they get into the industry. We will also facilitate and connect with financial aid and try to capitalize on the Super Saturday. We did just participate in the Super Saturday just last weekend. Moving forward during those Super Saturdays, we are going to try to offer those Super Saturdays at least once a month during our open registration period. That will allow students to, if they need to apply to the college, complete the FAFSA application, meet with advisors, as well as register for classes. Now, we're aware that all students may not be able to do that given specific circumstances, but for those who can, we want to be able to offer them that opportunity. Also, long-term plans will consist of the vice presidents connecting, those specific vice presidents being for enrollment management and the academic affairs, to begin to look at how we offer our classes. We want to begin to look at strategically approaching our courses that meets our students' needs. We have students who can come in, get in here and get out. We want to be able to offer them that pathway. We also want to be able to offer the traditional pathway. We're going to look at the days and times in which we offer classes to our students. We're going to collaborate in terms of registration and tuition deadline date messaging. Some may not know, but when you are an instructor, you have a captive audience right there, and they are all about hearing what that instructor needs to communicate. So developing short-term, quick 2-minute presentations to your class, as well as the use of Canvas in regards to priority registration dates and tuition deadline dates as well. Another big plan on the horizon is to develop information on our website, as well as printed material in terms of what I just mentioned our recruitment presentations will consist of. Students need to be able to walk away and know what they can do with their degree. And so early fall plans will consist of recurring meetings with myself, someone from academic affairs, marketing and communications, to begin to identify programs, salaries, industries in which individuals can use their degree so that we can publish that information and market that information. Another way in which we're going to collaborate with academic affairs is identifying our niche. It is important that we understand what we do well. It's important that we identify programs that students can't just find anywhere. And so again, collaborating with marketing and communications to, again, communicate that to prospective students. The collaboration with marketing and communications will also consist of timeless, evergreen types of commercials, but we'll also look at timely commercials. In other words, another idea that we're going to implement from an enrollment management standpoint is around November, maybe following the Thanksgiving holiday, is our commercials need to change. Students are away at four-year colleges and not quite sure that they want to go back or they can't return. And so we want to have commercials and marketing strategies around that particular population to enroll for our spring semester. There will also be plans to connect with our local high schools. We want to find out when they are hosting their college nights, their senior nights. We want to set up days where we can actually be present during the school hour. When we offer recruitment events during the evening, we do find that we are competing with after-school sports, job responsibilities. And so we want to be able to have that opportunity where we can have students present to learn about our institution. We'll continue to facilitate call campaigns and high-touch initiatives, but we're going to try to now more so plan for our peak season so that we're a little less reactive in our response to enrollment. Because we know when we're more reactive, we're going to increase stress levels. We're going to create priority registration plans during that time period so that we can reduce bottleneck processes when students are trying to reach us specifically in January and in the month of August. I am also going to look into assessing our current processes, our workflow systems, and admissions, records and registration, advising. All of our programs will be assessed to determine effectiveness, and then we will adjust accordingly. From a retention standpoint, we're going to look at developing new program, revitalizing new programs, such as our Minority Male Initiative. We really want to take a look at our first generation students. I'm also going to develop a program where students have an opportunity to meet with me at least twice a semester so that I can continue to learn and hear about their experiences while they're here at our college. Finally, we will also collaborate with human resources. As we are trying to recruit for positions, we want to ensure that our job postings are truly communicating the needs of the college. And so just ensuring that as we post that information, that we are as clear as we need to be so that we are hopefully attracting the talent that we need to take us to the next level. Finally, I want to truly extend a special thank you to those who not only stepped up, but they stepped out of their role with these initiatives. So we also offered a virtual boot camp. And so please allow me to extend my sincerest appreciation to Mr. Ted Twill and Ms. Katrina Bailey. They have also facilitated our new student orientation. So again, another appreciation and shout out to Ms. Katrina Bailey, Ted Twill, Ms. Veronica Dempsey, Asia Randolph, Lisa Smith, and Brandy Weaver. Our youth night, Ms. Keisha Samuels, Ms. Veronica Dempsey, Ms. Myra Vasquez, Dr. Monette Dutch, Ms. Patricia Reese, Ms. Dana Cook, Kathy Carbrawl, Ms. Beth Dickens, Michael Mann, Julie Young, Mark Burge, Terrence Scott, Ed Morris, Teresa Frazier, Lloyd Carter, Jenny Jones, Mylea Kearns, Dr. Burge Hall, and Ms. Deborah Farley. We also facilitated our registration sessions, and I want to give a great shout out to Dr. Kristen Rarick, Kathy Murrow, Katrina Bailey, Veronica Dempsey, Erin Noble, Susan Lindley, Ted Tweel, and Sarah Gorman. I also want to say a special shout out to Ms. Sarah Lynn and Seth Fisher, because they were behind the scenes truly setting up Navigate so that our faculty could facilitate advising services during those months. That call campaign, as I mentioned, consisted of a list of students of a little over 2,100 students. And so I divided those students up among those who volunteered. So Ms. Stephanie Barnett, Cynthia Calloway, Erica Charity, Michael Filsinger, Lindsay LeMay, David Kleiman, Reham Mahfouz, Barbara Mason, Lorraine Pegway, Gary Pounder, Hannah Powers, Elizabeth Rosado, Michelle Shank, Ping Fei Song, Cheryl Sparrow, Natasha Woods. And for academic advising assistance that we received from our faculty, Michelle Alexander, Amy Anderson, Jacqueline Blackwell, Jeff Bonavita, David Coffey, Teresa Frazier, Sarah Lynn Gorgon, Maggie Haley, Dr. Betsy Harrison, Linda Herbert, Mylea Kearns, Erin Noble, Lorraine Petway, Keisha Samuels, Camille Sims, Cindy Somerset, Cece Wheeler, Susie Lindley, and Anthony Fentos. Again, I want to just say thank you so much for not only stepping up, but stepping out and trying to assist with our enrollment management here at the college.
If I can have a moment to just reiterate that huge thanks. We had so many people raise their hands after that last town hall and do all of this work to step out of their regular jobs and help with the initiatives that were planned in the short term. And so we know that that stretches folks beyond their comfort zone sometimes, and we're so appreciative of that. We know that all hands on deck cannot be a long-term strategy, but it's definitely occasionally a short-term need, and we just really want to emphasize that extra thing. So thank you so much.
Did I say Barbara Mason? Okay, I just want to make sure I said my Miss Barbara Mason. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to follow on from Dr. Hollins and share a little bit about where we are in terms of enrollment for this spring, what that means for this academic year, and where we end as we close out the academic year with spring, and then a little bit about talking about what we're seeing and what we're thinking about in terms of environmental factors that typically affect our enrollment and what that might mean for us in the coming year and years ahead. So just wanted to start with, I think, some positive news around the work that Dr. Hollins was just referencing, right? And what we typically see with enrollment for fall and spring is that, you know, our spring semester really closely mirrors fall, right? So for example, this past fall, we were down about 7% in terms of student headcount or students served, about 9% in student credit hours or full-time student equivalency. And so typically we would expect that to kind of translate into the spring, right, and see a similar decline. What we've actually are projecting at this point, of course, the spring is still ongoing and we have some registrations to enter, but where we think we're going to come out for the current spring semester is closer to 4% down in students served and 6% down in full-time equivalent students. So of course we can't directly attribute that to these efforts, but you know, we've had these enrollment strategies in place. We had interventions in terms of getting more of our classes back face to face, right? That was one targeted effort, and then all of those focus support initiatives that Dr. Hollins just described are ones that likely have helped us have more students with us for this spring semester. So what does that mean for closing out the year and moving forward? Ada, if you wouldn't mind going forward to the next slide. Really, it means that our declines are going to be somewhat less this year, but we're still in that mode of enrollment decline, right? And so I think this graphic kind of tells the story, right, of where we've been and where we are. Of course, we don't know exactly how we're going to come out for this year. That's still a projection at this point. But the most likely scenario is that we'll be down about 8% again this year, year to year overall, which comes right on the heel of kind of our largest decline year, right, of the core of the pandemic last year, where we were down about 12%. And where that'll put us kind of in the more historical perspective is down right around 48% in terms of enrollment since our peak back in the 2011-2012 academic year. So just to kind of put that in context and think about that in terms of the students we serve, we will likely end this year serving about 7,500 fewer students in credit instruction than we did just 10 years ago, right? So as we know, a really dramatic shift in enrollment and something that we have not yet turned around, right? We're still in that decline mode. A couple things kind of looking forward and thinking about where we're headed from here. Of course, when we think about enrollment projections for future years, one really important factor is our current students, right? Because a lot of our students here with us now will be here with us next year, right? So always an important factor in projecting enrollment forward is to look at our current students, think about how many of those will be retained with us. And so as you decline in enrollment, you have fewer students to return, right? And so that can be a compounding factor unless you have more either higher retention or more students to recruit from and bring in new to the institution, right? And so that's one factor that we look at is just our current students and how many are likely to return. Another really important one is our high school graduates, right? The number of individuals coming out of our regional high schools, is a good predictor as well, right? A lot of those students come to us, we're their kind of first destination after high school. And so that's really an important thing for us to look at and consider as well. For the future there's some kind of interesting data nationwide that's up here on the slide that's really quite similar. If you look at Virginia or our service region in particular, where we're expected to see some kind of modest increases over the next few years in high school graduates, not because there are more students in high school, but actually because completion rates among high school students are on the rise, right? So more students coming out and completing with high school diplomas. But then we're headed toward this kind of longer term decline in high school graduates. So moving forward, class of 2026 and beyond, there's expected to be this kind of gradual decline without really an end in sight in terms of number of high school graduates, just because of the birth rate, in the period that results in high school graduates there. So kind of another signal that tells us maybe, we'll have a few years here where we're still seeing a good population of high school graduates, but a longer term challenge for us coming up. The other thing that we look at and is really still the greatest predictor of community college enrollment and enrollment for us is the strength of the regional economy. So of course, as we've talked about a lot as a college before, when unemployment rates are low, typically that results in fewer students coming to us, right? They're able to more easily get jobs, move into careers. When unemployment is particularly high and is sustained at a high level, those are the times when we see a lot of new students come to community colleges and to Thomas Nelson. So one of the kind of peculiar things about the pandemic, right, is we had this really dramatic spike in unemployment, but we've almost already returned to that really low level of unemployment that we were at before the pandemic. And we've had this really strong wage growth as well, right? So there's a lot of great jobs out there with higher wages than typically would be in the past. Another kind of challenge for us in terms of enrollment going forward is that individuals have a lot of options in the employment realm, without coming to us or coming back to us for further retraining right now. So just wanted to kind of share those. The signals right now are not great for us to grow enrollment, but things change very dramatically, quickly with the economy and some of these other things, right? So hard to predict, but really kind of makes us think about, what do we look like as this size of institution, and what can we be doing, ignoring these environmental factors, what can we be doing in terms of interventions and strategic efforts here to grow enrollment through our actions. So with that, I will hand the mic over to Mr. Carpenter, who's going to talk about finances and what this all means for us.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record from the December meeting. Matter of fact, the slide is almost identical to the December meeting, because in the finance world, things just don't change that quickly. In a month and a half, there's not much new information, except that each week that goes by, we're able to really confirm projections. As we get closer to the end of the year, the projection gets firmer and firmer, because there's less chance for unknowns to occur each month or each week that passes. So it's much of the same story that Stephen was referring to. Our tuition since FY19 and what we have projected for this year is down nearly $4.5 million over that 3-year period. Obviously, it's not sustainable. For the current year, were it not for carry forward that we had last year, a very good surplus, as well as care funds that we've been able to reimburse ourselves for some losses in revenue, we would be looking at roughly $2 million shortfall for this year. So because we do have a carry forward and those CARES funds, we will be looking at ample surplus for this year, because we have, between carry forward and CARES, we have about $5 million there to prop us up for the year. So looking forward to next year, it's much of the same story. And this looking forward to next year assumes no change in enrollment. So if enrollment continues to drop, the story will be worse. If enrollment heads up, then the story is much better. So assuming there are no changes between next year and this year, because at this point we just don't know, we're hopeful that things will improve. And we believe with some of the things that Janetta just talked about, the gains that we made through the efforts of many here at the college, we believe, and we're hoping for enrollment increase, but until we see that, we don't want to count on that. So if it were not for this carry forward that we'll have this year, and we do have one piece of CARES Act funds that will carry in to August of next year. Most of it runs out in May, and we can no longer use it. We have one small separate piece of CARES Act that runs into August. So in the July-August timeframe, we will be able to reimburse ourselves for some losses this past year. So once we reimburse ourselves, that money becomes ours to do with what we need, paying electrical bills, whatever it might be. So we're looking, if it weren't for that, we'd be looking at about a $3 million shortfall. The difference between the two is the state budget, they have provided some funds in the current year that don't carry forward into next year. They had available funds in the last budget cycle that they did. They gave to the community college system as a whole, that's all the colleges, an amount of funding that is not projected to carry forward into next year. So we'll lose some funds there. The other piece of that is on the expense side. We have some known expense increases next year. The main being increases in health insurance costs. So that is a cost that the college will see next year and the following year. So again, it's not a great story. Something will have to change next year, whether it's enrollment increases, which we are working towards, or finding ways to reduce expenses. We will have to do something by the end of next year. And when I say next year, that means fiscal year. So that would be June 30th, 2023 is when we believe we'll have be okay till then. But we won't have any more CARES Act money. We won't have a carry forward next year. We will this year, but not next year. So, or at least very little, if any. So that's the time where we're really the rubber will meet the road. We'll have to make up that deficit. So that's about 17 months from now.
Okay, so with our new format, I'm going to open the chat and allow folks to ask questions either through the chat or raise their hands to ask verbally. And we will go ahead and unmute those who have questions. We are a little behind our original schedule, so we probably only have time for 1 or 2 questions, but you can go ahead and hopefully our technology is going to work. Any questions out there?
I can raise my hand. It's Ted Twill here.
Okay.
I have a question. And I keep coming back to this. So, and it is about enrollment. And I think as Stephen Felker had quoted that for the average full-time teaching faculty, kind of to break even, we need 23 students into a course. So the question I ask is, what are we looking at in terms of a number that's acceptable beyond 23 students?
And I don't know if I don't want to answer for Steve so much as headcount's kind of less relevant than FTE, right? So if we get all of our students to take 12 credits, we'll be in good shape, right? We need more FTEs, right? So if we actually could have less bodies and more FTEs, we're still in good shape. So it's really less about how many seats we have in the class, which is important, but we're funded based on an FTE model. So for example, I worked at a college where we increased our head count and they were all taking 6 credits, right? And so that didn't really work out. And so the number of students is something that could be either here or there. I think what we're looking at, and Steve, you correct me if I'm wrong, but FTEs really matter. And so if we could get, for example, the same number of students we have right now to each take 1 more class each, right? We'd be in a lot better shape just because of the amount of FTEs that are being accrued, right? And so the head count matters, but it's not the only factor. Is that fair, Steve?
That is fair. And I'm not 100% sure on the question whether it's how many students are acceptable in each class or in total. I mean, from a finance standpoint, I want to put as many students in each class as I can. That's how we earn the most money in order to compensate for the classes that have few students in them for, whatever the many cases legitimate reason. So we want to put as many students in a classroom as we can. If this is a question about the capacity of a faculty member to be able to teach some number of classes, that's beyond my expertise and area. But just looking at it from a finance standpoint, I want to put as many students in a classroom as I can.
Okay. Could we take that then and say, what is the percentage of enrollment gain we need from this year to be good?
my tail popped over my mute button. I couldn't get to it. So if we are looking at roughly a $3 million deficit for next year, you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 plus additional students. As Janetta said, we got 700 out of the number that she called. Those were, some returning to not 700 random students necessarily, but it's not impossible, but it is a tall order. So we're talking between 600 and 700 students.
Could you give me that in a percent, just based off of this year?
Sure. It's roughly, let me look at that. It's about 18-19%.
So if every program tried to increase their enrollment 20%, we'd be good. I guess that's where I'm trying to get at.
Yes, that would put us in much better shape. Yes.
And I will, I don't know how much time we have left. There was a question, about performing arts, and it's might be 3 questions in one. What stands out to me, if we have students who need to graduate, Dr. Bach, I'm going to ask you to get with the performing arts folks. If we have students who need to graduate, we can get students to graduate. I don't know that there's very few students in the program, so that's not really an enrollment question. But if we have students who need to return and graduate, we should not make it difficult for them. So I'm going to ask Dean Bach to get together with the faculty and with our folks who plan classes. And if we are preventing students from graduating, like what we do best is offer classes and teach classes. We can get classes scheduled and students enrolled. That should be easy for us. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Bach to take the lead on coming back to Dr. Schaefer with a plan for getting our performing arts students to enroll. But I don't know that that's relevant to the enrollment conversation. But if we're in a position where our performing arts students can't graduate, Dr. Bach, I'm just going to ask you to take the lead on coming forward with a plan to get those students the classes they need in order to transfer.
And I know that there are more comments and there's some other questions. In the interest of time, I am going to let us move on to the next topic because I know that that is also very important to everyone. And I'm going to make sure that we follow up with folks who have put information in the chat for very specific things.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to provide you just some quick reminders really about COVID. For our particular area, the state, the Commonwealth, as well as our immediate region and across the nation, COVID-19 hospitalizations, new testing encounters, positives, etc., are all on a significant decline. Well over 50% in many areas from just what they were 2 weeks ago. There is, with regard to vaccination and testing mandates, there has been a change recently for Commonwealth employees. You're no longer required to provide your vaccination status, and we're no longer requiring employees to be tested weekly based on vaccination status. With regard to our safety measures, our mitigation efforts to try to reduce the spread of COVID-19 within our community and especially on our campuses and within our classrooms and educational sites, we've not had any changes to our mitigation strategies at this point with regard to masking. Masks are still required in all college facilities. That includes our off-campus sites within which we are have an agreement that it is our site. So I do know there have been other questions about some of the opportunities in our public schools. Those can be vetted back through your academic division, or you can email me directly to try to get answers to those. Also wanted to remind everyone, if you or our students test positive, you need to report that through COVID-19 at tncc.edu. And Human Resources will provide information to our employees, and the Dean of Student Services, Dr. Harrison, will provide information to our students. We very often are asked excuse me, by faculty or staff when they're going to be notified that someone is positive or that they know someone was positive. And we just ask everyone to be mindful that is protected health information. It is not shared. If it has to be shared, it is shared with the appropriate persons at the appropriate time. Excuse me. So again, as a whole, our nation, our region, our college is doing just a fantastic job at mitigation strategies right now. We are seeing those positive cases down by 50%, and encourage everyone to continue that. And we do make changes to our mitigation strategies as changes are made through the CDC or the Virginia Department of Health. So with that, Ada?
Sure. So I see that we've already got a question related to this topic, so I'll go ahead and.
Is that
I'm
one in
just
the
checking.
chat?
Yep,
I'm
it's right
sorry.
here.
You said that that faculty should report if faculties or students are positive for COVID. So if a student tells me they have COVID, I'm supposed to report it?
So if a student tells you, so one thing we want to remember, no one has a responsibility to tell anyone else that they're ill or what their illness is. We want to remind everybody to use the CDC self-checker before coming on campus or to your educational site. If you are feeling ill and you're an employee, contact your supervisor and let them know that you're feeling ill. If it's a student, they should reach out to their faculty and let them know they're not going to be in class or that type of thing. If a student conveys to a faculty member that they are COVID positive or that they're ill, if they tell you they're COVID positive, advise them to report it through the COVID-19 at tncc.edu. If a coworker tells you that they're ill, advise them to self-report it. But we are not asking people of their health status. Did that answer your question? Did I mute myself? Oh, okay.
No, we're good.
I have a question. This is Amanda Mall. Last semester, I had several students who did tell me they had COVID, and so I told them that they needed to report it. And they told me that they didn't hear anything back from the school. I did talk to Dr. Rarig about it, and I think she was going to have encouraged that there be some kind of at least automated message come back saying, you know, thank you for letting us know, and refer to that infographic if you don't hear anything back. But I just wanted to make sure that there was a system working that even though I don't think from what I knew about my students that they needed to quarantine or anything, they were staying out of school the way that they needed to. But I just wanted to make sure that that mechanism was in place, that at least they heard something when they emailed that address.
Yes, I can tell you that there is a mechanism in place. Again, Human Resources monitors that email box, and they are responsive to employee relations types of situations with COVID-19. And Dr. Harrison is the Dean of Student Services, monitors that email box, and she responds to student emails that come in. And they do get a response back. It does refer them to the mitigation strategies that we have. And depending on the particular situation, there's additional information that may be provided to either employees and or the student who may be reporting.
If I could jump in really quickly, just something that I'm going to ask us to double check with that. If Dr. Harrison could double check, like sometimes if something's going to spam, like if someone said they haven't heard back, I'm just concerned like if it might be going to a spam mailbox. Just if there's a way for us to double check that when those types of automated responses go out, it may not necessarily land in someone's primary email. So if there's a way for us to check that, whether using our own Gmail accounts or whatever, just to make sure that if we've put the system in place, we want to make sure that folks are actually getting the messages. Because I don't know about you all, but I don't necessarily check my spam or junk mailboxes on a regular occasion. So just something for us to check our own internal processes.
All right, we're gonna just have one more question about this topic and then we'll move on.
You mentioned concern about maintaining student privacy related to health. So for the time frame between August and up through the governor's recent legal actions in January for staff and faculty that had mandated testing and health reporting, and even for those who were reporting vaccination status, will HR be destroying those records or somehow handling them in a way that those privacy concerns are also taken care of for that time frame? Is the system office doing that, or is our college doing that?
So what I will say there is human resources will handle those records in accordance with the Commonwealth's records management requirements, records retention requirements. And that's a better question for human resources to answer directly.
And I can jump in and say that I don't know off the top of my head for that type of electronic record, what the retention requirement is. I do know retention requirements vary anywhere from 0 to 5 years. So I will take a look at that and see what I can find out and communicate it out as appropriate.
Okay, and again, in the interest of time, we're going to move on, but I know there was another question that came in the chat. If Paul might be, or Dean Long, would you be able to respond back to that in the chat? While we move on. Facilities update.
Oh, there it goes. Having trouble with my mute button. I apologize. Yes, facilities update. So we have lots of really good positive news. Not all as good as we would like, but really good news, I think. And as we go through each of these updates, except for the very last one that you see on the list, all of these projects are system office led projects that belong to the system office, and we are the benefactors of their hard work. So I say that to say it's lots of great news, but it's not all exactly the time frame that we would like to see. And I'm not blaming the system office in any way. They are working very hard. It is just that the wheels of construction move very slowly. So as we're going through these, keep in mind that it's good news. Another thing to remember, all of the projects that you're looking at here, barring the last one, are paid for either by the VCCS Maintenance Reserve Fund, or insurance money in some cases, or the state itself providing finances. So when you look at all these huge major projects, they are nearly entirely paid for outside of Thomas Nelson funds. Now we're going to be able to contribute a little bit of funds to do some upgrades here and there to some of the things that we would really like to see that they may not be willing to put additional costs into, but nearly 100% of these projects are paid for outside of Thomas Nelson funds. Start out with Templin Hall Auditorium. That is, for the most part, still in design and going through approvals. I understand that the foundation work, which is the very first part, obviously that's necessary, is awaiting approval from DEB at this moment. I don't want anybody to think that the visible inactivity is any sign of things not moving forward. They are working very hard behind the scenes to get all of the paperwork and the designs and all those things completed, and through the very rigorous processes to get the project visibly moving. We do hope to see some visible action this summer. So you should start seeing foundation and other work, big machinery on campus by this summer, and starting to do some work on the Templin Hall Auditorium. Obviously, the Templin Hall classroom office space goes along with that. That will not come back online until Templin Hall Auditorium is complete. So that brings me to the next item, which is Hampton 4. Hopefully everyone has heard about Hampton 4 by this time. It's the building right next to Hampton 3 on Butler Farm Road. It is a Templin Hall swing space, which means, you know, a temporary space to get us through this period of Templin Hall coming back online, which I should have mentioned. Once they begin that construction this summer, we're hopeful. It's a little maybe in the 2-year time frame, so we would hope it would be online in the winter of 24-25, hopefully, you know, before the spring semester of January 25, but it'll be somewhere in that range. So in the meantime, we'll have this Templin swing space at Hampton 4, and what that space will consist of is offices for everyone that was displaced from Templin, as well as the classrooms and the specific classrooms that were displaced from Templin Hall. So when we have a art class, design studio, I think it is like a Cisco lab, we call it. I'm not in that area of expertise, but all those types of classrooms will exist in Hampton 4. I've heard, I'm going to throw this in here since I mentioned office space. Right now, the building itself is just an empty shell. It was a call center for Ferguson Enterprises, and so they had just taken all the walls out for the most part, and it's just big empty space where they had hundreds of cubicles set up for, you know, for a call center. That requires quite a bit of design and then construction to make it fit our needs. I've heard in the last week or so about a concern about office space on campus. So I want to touch on that before moving too far forward. If people are in need of an office, as we discussed back in the July, as I know it's a long time ago, but the July town hall regarding facilities, I mentioned there, I toured the entire campus. I went room by room through the entire campus, looking at offices that might be available. And we had dozens and dozens of offices and dozens of cubicles available for staff. I met with the deans. The deans, to my understanding, reached out to faculty who were the main ones displaced from Templin. And we identified offices for those that desired an office on campus, but there are dozens more. If people are in need of an office, please don't be shy. Get with your dean, your dean or your supervisor if it's not a faculty member, and the deans can get with me and we can work to identify space. I'm quite certain we have a number of offices left. They may not be in the ideal spot. You might work in Hampton 3 and we have office space in Biggs or Hastings. It's not ideal, but there is plenty of office space. With regard to adjunct faculty, we still have some common or some adjunct space in Hampton 3 and other places on campus, but we have offices. If people want to share an office, I will say the offices are cleaned only daily, but you can bring your own cleaning supplies in if you're concerned about sharing an office. But we have offices that people can, we could set up a way for you to share an office if we have a number of adjuncts that want to do that. So I hope that office space won't be a concern for much longer, especially when Hampton 4 comes online. So in addition to bringing everything from Templin over to Hampton 4, our goal is now working with the system office and the engineers and contractors that are doing this new building is to bring everything from Diggsmore Harrison also into Hampton 4. That increases the construction work done, but the cost of the facility is entirely borne by the insurance company. So there's no cost to us to rent this facility for the next 3+ years. So our goal and the engineers' goal that are working with the new building is if we can move people out of Diggsmore Harrison early, then and put them over here, we can tear that space down and have the new building in a more optimal spot. Just basically just move it over just a little bit. Right now, it has to kind of squeeze in, and it fits. It's the size we need, but it's really squeezed in between Hastings and more Harrison, Diggsmore Harrison area. So it's going to make it very difficult for construction to go on because they can't get to certain angles and sides because of the space. So if we can tear those buildings down, we can move the building over just a little bit and work out better for everyone. So that is the goal, to get everything from Digsmore Harrison into the new facility. Now, unfortunately, was just in a meeting on, I think it was Wednesday, and there are difficulties with getting the construction moving and getting the approvals needed, both from the city and the state, to move forward. There was some retro work to get the building ADA compliant. Much of that work is underway and done, but the build out of the space to create classrooms and so forth is just taking longer than expected, which is exactly what we should expect. Is that it was going to take longer than expected. So I am not as hopeful that we will be entirely in there for the fall semester. I'm working with Julie right now to identify exactly what classes are most needed for that space, but it is very possible that Hampton 4 will be available in part for the fall semester and coming online throughout the fall semester. So for the different sessions, maybe able to add classrooms, but it doesn't look like it will be entirely available to us for the August start of fall classes. But it's still, I know they're moving as quickly as they can. They understand our urgency. They're sympathetic to our urgency. It's just that it takes a long time to do things. That brings us to the construction of the new classroom administration building, what we're currently calling Digsmore Harrison replacement. I kind of already touched on that, except to tell you it's on target. The funding exists at the state level. It was approved in the budget. The funding will actually be released, hopefully this coming year, and we will start to see construction there as well. It has to go through the entire bid process and selection process, but that is all in the works. And we would expect to see that building open and available somewhere close to the same time frame as Templin. So maybe a little bit behind, a little bit of a delay from that, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years from now, give or take a few months. That's their current plan and goal. Again, as I said a minute ago, we should expect it to take longer than expected, but that is what we are hoping for. Roof repairs. The snow that we've had the last couple of weeks, as well as some rains, has brought to light some and enhanced some leaks and things that we have been dealing with. We had a construction. We're not, in some cases, patches we can do, but for the most part, we don't have expertise to do that level of work. We hire contractors. We had a contractor on site that was able to fix a few of those issues. Others we've identified since their efforts that there's still some problems. So we have to have constructions back on site to do some additional work. But just please know that we are working on it. We're aware of it. It's not easy. I mean, it's not like you just go up and say, oh, there's the hole and fill it in and it's done. They are very, very difficult in some cases to find. Water, I worked with water for years. It can find its way through anything and anywhere. So it is very difficult sometimes to identify those things. But we are efforting that as best we can. It takes time. In the meantime, as you see issues, please report it. We can, obviously, we don't want to have buckets all over the place, but we can put buckets where needed, and we can replace tiles as needed. If you let tiles sit with water on it, you start to get the brown. We don't want that. So please let us know anytime you see that, put in the work orders so that we can make quick temporary repairs as we work towards more permanent repairs. Roof replacement, that's related to Hastings and the Hastings Annex. That project is, I know we've been talking about it a good long time, but as I said, construction wheels move slowly. It is in process. We're hopeful that we'll have a construction award in just a couple months, and actual construction will begin late summer, early fall on that project. And so Hastings has been a difficult, issue for a number of years with leaks. But this roof replacement should take care of those things, and we expect to see construction beginning late summer, early fall. HVAC units, While Templin is down, we're taking the opportunity to go ahead and replace the HVAC units on at the Templin office and classroom side. Obviously, they'll be new as the auditorium goes up, but we're replacing everything in the office and classroom side of the building also. The PWDC is getting all new HVAC units. Some of them have been replaced over the 20 years it's existed, but many of them have not. That is a project that is borne in large part by the tenants that are in the facility, ODU, Hampton Roads Workforce Council, and the VEC. Our portion of it is being covered by the system office, VCCS. Unless we're able to use CARES Act money for it, we'll do that if we can get permission to use CARES Act funds for that. If not, the system office is covered. The Hastings, that all the roof replacements of HVAC units at Hastings will be replaced with the new roof. There's some HVAC equipment on the ground that's not necessarily going to be replaced with it, but the rooftop units will all be replaced with the new roof. The HVAC study at Hampton 3, this is the one where, and this is just a study that we're bearing the cost of. If you work over in Hampton 3 or teach in Hampton 3 at all, or take a class in Hampton 3, anything, you'll know we've experienced quite a few problems with the heat and air in that facility in the last year or two. And it is a very, very different, unusual HVAC system. It's not like any normal system that you have out there that has a unit and ductwork and pushes out. It's very, very different than that. Each area has its own unit that takes the freon in from somewhere else and pushes it out. It's an odd system. So we're going to have someone come in and look at that system and see if there's anything else we can do. The reason, my understanding, I wasn't here, the reason that in part that system was used is the roof, the distance between the ceiling and the roof is narrow and there's not enough room for duct work to go through there. So we're having a study to see what can we do? Is it possible to put a more traditional unit here, or do we need to just replace everything we have? It lasted, roughly 10 years. So that's good, but not great. But we're having so many problems with it. We can't continue, for one, to have the expense of constant breakdowns, but equally or more importantly, to have the discomfort of our employees for, in some cases, weeks at a time, because parts are very hard to come by in this time. So we're having a study done. Actually, we're having somebody on campus Monday to get that underway. But any resolution to that is a ways out. But please know that we realize it's a problem and we're working on it. That's all that I have for the moment. Ada?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Here to give you, I guess, a few updates on the information technology programs and, I guess, varied things we have going on campus today. There are 3 topics that we've got that are, I guess, kind of the hot items right now. So I'll step through those fairly quickly for you and give you an opportunity to ask a few questions. The first one, everybody pretty well knows about it, I believe. You've seen the emails about it a number of times now. Multi-factor authentication. We are in the middle of rolling that out. We're coming up actually on a deadline to get it done in March, the beginning of the month coming up actually. So you'll see a few more updates and reminders coming out about that. But a few things I'd like to share with you about that right up front, so that you know kind of even why we're doing what we're doing, as well as, I guess, kind of what to expect in a couple of ways down the road also. Multi-factor authentication, I think we all know what it is. It's going to be put in place to help make our logins to our varied systems and services much more secure. Security is always nice. Security is painful sometimes. It makes you do extra things. It makes you go to trouble to do the things we're in the middle of doing right now. But I want to assure everybody it is really for good reason. It's not being done on a whim. It is actually being done across the entire VCCS for a very good reason. That being that there have been a lot of compromises of sensitive information, even a lot of lost money over the last couple of years The trouble we're going to right now, it is a little bit of effort. It is a little bit of trouble. I want to thank everybody for working with us on this so much, and we'll keep working to make this as smooth as possible, but very much for good reason, because the trouble that we'll incur without it would be just plain far greater. So we're in the midst of rolling this out. We have seen that there have been a couple of issues that folks have run into. In particular, I think most folks have been taking the I guess very much the preferred method of authenticating your login, that being your cell phone. As you know now, I think most of you have already tried. You log in, and instead of just typing in your ID and password, being done with everything, it sends you an approval request to your cell phone or your preferred device, whatever you're carrying around, and you say yes or no. If you ever get an approval to log in and you haven't just tried to log in, the idea is that you say no, and whoever just tried to pull a fast one on you can't go any further. If, of course, you are the one trying to log in, you just tap the approve button and in you go, no problem. We have had a couple of folks running into difficulties with that with their individual phones, sometimes related to Wi-Fi at home, cable modem service, something about the phone itself. There can be a variety of issues going on right now regarding that. So we are working, I think, through a couple of issues with folks as they call in. Not large numbers, certainly not zero, but not, I think, in major numbers or anything like that. So I do think that the rollout is going pretty smoothly overall. One thing that we are looking to do right now that I think will smooth out everything even more so and eliminate any potential frustration down the road is give everybody kind of a backup plan, if you will. For example, if I've lost my cell phone, I'm kind of in trouble. If I can't get that approval that day, or if for whatever reason it's not working, then that's certainly a problem getting in. If we give everybody kind of a plan B, which is what we'll be working on next, then if you can't get through, something's malfunctioning with your cell phone, the app's not working, you've lost it, then you can just go on to the second option and authenticate through that and not find yourself locked out. I think one of the things you'll see available as a pretty typical second option is the use of your email account, meaning that if I can't log in using my cell phone app, for example, in this case, then the system will default to sending the code that I need to log in to my alternate email account. I check my email, I see the numeric code they give me, I type in the proper sequence, and off I go. I'm back in business again. I think that's going to help the folks that we've been dealing with primarily right now with the occasional problem, because if your phone isn't getting good signal at a particular time, like I say, you can always go to plan B. Speaking of plan B, it might be plan A for some folks, so let me share this as well. We are, like I said in the beginning, coming up on the deadline to get this fully implemented for the whole VCCS. So come early March, if you have not signed up for a particular, your preferred multi-factor authentication method, then the system's going to cut in anyhow come March, and it's going to default to using the alternate email address method that I was just speaking of. Not actually a bad thing, since we all really have one. We all have our email.vccs.edu accounts to use. All of our students, when they're signing up for classes, they have an alternate email account they've identified for us. So literally, if you're satisfied to be using your email method to get in, all you have to do is sit back and do absolutely nothing whatsoever, and the system will take care of it for you come that time. Between now and March, if you prefer another method, such as using your smartphone or getting a text message on the phone, any of the other options, we've got the instructions out there posted for everybody. Just give it a shot, go through the directions. I know there are even a couple of instructional videos there that will walk you through step by step, a person kind of doing it live, so you can see exactly how it's done. If you do run into an issue, just let us know, give the help desk a call. We'll distribute those calls among staff and get you taken care of as fast as possible. Second topic up on internet and Wi-Fi upgrades on campus. We are going through a large variety of networking upgrades on campus right now. The biggest common thing I think that we're accomplishing with everything that we're working on right now is resolving the problem of capacity and performance. Right now, and most of you know this, way better than even I do, there have been times in the past where you've gone into a particular facility, everything seems to be kind of okay, but a few more folks show up and things get so slow that you just can't keep going, or there's some activity going on campus and other activities slow up as a result. what we really just have been lacking capacity to do, but so much at once. Too many people show up in one place, too many different things going on campus, and services just start performing poorly at that point, which is why we're doing this renovation in the first place. We're actually improving our overall capacity literally by, I think, about 1,600 times to be mathematically accurate right now, while hopefully, if everything goes to plan, reducing our maintenance expenses for the future at the same time. So we kind of get to have our cake and eat it too a little bit. And one example of exactly that, we have two campuses. We are one of the colleges in the VCCS that is not confined to a single campus and a single location. So it spreads out IT, it spreads out our need to get things done. Oftentimes that means it doubles up on cost and reduced performance in some ways. Right now, we have actually found a way to tie our campuses together such that the two campuses, Williamsburg and Hampton, they will act, they will perform, they will give you services as if they were all in the same place. So if you kind of ignore for a second that there is a little bit of distance between those locations, you don't really have to think of them as different locations anymore. We are a single college, and the campuses will perform like a single campus now with no loss of service or performance whatsoever. That is going to result in a great deal of savings and a whole lot of simplification and bringing added services to the college. One other thing that we're looking to do with all the varied upgrades is to, I guess, really kind of support the model of making services available to reach you and reach our students when you can't necessarily reach us. Whether that be on campus or off campus, there will be, I think, a lot of examples of that you'll see coming pretty clearly in the future. For example, our internet services will be extended directly into the parking lots so that if you are there after hours, if you are driving through, I don't even want to jinx life, by even suggesting this out loud, but if there is an extension of the pandemic now, a future pandemic, anything like that, our services will be available throughout parking lots and extended areas around the campus so that you can take full advantage of being on campus without really having to be around anybody or anything else if the need arises. That might be good for after hours work when buildings are closed. It might be good just for working in isolation when you need to, but the services will be brought to you a little more in those examples than they will have to, than they would have been if you'd been, I guess, walking into a building, having to take your chances about being around everybody else. One of the other things that we'll be doing is extending a lot of our infrastructure services so that they can literally follow you home, if you will. And, our infrastructure services are not stalking you or anything like that. What this generally means is that you'll be able to go home and ask for what you need, getting online, and have those services, those computing resources, those software tools created for you, basically on demand and sent to you, whether it be faculty, whether it be students. Basically, if you can't be on our campus, again, we will send the campus straight to you at home if need be. And the resources that once upon a time would have required you to drive onto campus, physically go into a building and sit there and get your work done before closing hours, will no longer require any of that. Like I say, we will come to you when you can't come to us. So I think that'll be a very, very helpful upgrade coming up. Finally, the big topic at hand is HyFlex classrooms also. We all know that we've been more or less mandated to get services like this online by the VCCS as a whole. I think we all see the wisdom of doing that because, again, we have to look for ways to reach out to our students when they can't be with us for any number of reasons now. And I think there are a lot of reasons to do this, that the pandemic's an obvious one, but I think there are a lot of reasons, even pandemic aside, to try to make it easy for students to reach us. The military work in the area, I think, is one of the greatest examples in the world. When they can't get to us, we need to find a way to get to them. And that's, I think, again, part of what HyFlex is going to be all about. We've had a big challenge in trying to get anything done because, as we all know, there's been a real problem with getting supplies and getting technologies in hand. The supply chain issues that you hear about in the news, they are not exaggerated. They can be nightmarish sometimes. I know of things that we have ordered literally almost a year ago that are just now hopefully getting ready to show up onto campus, right this very minute. So everything that you hear and read about is not exaggerated in the least. The good news is that a lot of what we need to implement HyFlex classrooms has finally shown up. A lot of this is in hand now. So we will have the ability to put, really large crystal clear displays in the front of the classrooms, cameras positioned around the classroom so that students at home can feel like they're in class with you. They can see everything that's going on. They can look around the classroom. They'll be able to see and hear perfectly well because we'll be equipping these systems with the speakers and the microphone sets necessary for complete, clear communication. I mean, it won't be staticky. It won't be challenging. It will be just like being in person. So all that will be available to you shortly, along with the opportunity to, I guess, sit through the systems with us, get trained up and everything before you're kind of cut loose to use it. So we'll circle back with faculty on how everything works and get back with you to make these resources available to you in the very near future. I think we're kind of running short of time. So if you all like, just get back with me after this meeting whenever you like, if you have any questions or concerns, and we'll go through this with you anytime you like. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So folks, we are really low on time here today. We are going
You can
to
do
skip-
shared governance in 3 minutes.
Okay, we're going to skip question and answers and we're going to get into shared governance. Would you like to start here or on your
Absolutely.
next slide?
So
Okay.
as most of you recognize, this is a communication slide, and shared governance is all about communication and collaboration. It came from the Monday meetup and the encore presentation that Dr. Brannon, Keisha Samuels, and myself presented twice last May. And we are going to be planning to do that again this spring. We got a couple of slides that's going to provide a little bit of a historical context. We're going to have also some information about where we are at right now in the Shared Governance Committee and what our plans are for the future. Keisha.
Thank you, Paul. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us. We're going to make it really, really brief. But just to provide a little bit of context to the scope of this work and where we're going, back in 2011, when Dr. Dever really brought forth the idea of us really having a concerted and intentional effort on shared governance. The goal at that time was, the goal at this time is to increase collaboration. So it's really important to understand where we've come from and where we're going. It is, the history also lends itself to, in 2019, we were approached with another idea of this whole idea of collaborative decision making. And so what we did, coming from the 2011, when Dr. Dever introduced it, was that it was primarily led by administrators. So it was a really top-heavy decision-making model that we were following, but based on where we are now in the VCCS, where we are now as a community, where we are now as a society, there has been a shift. There's been lots and lots of research to support a more collaborative engagement with faculty and staff as it relates to shared governance. So when we look at where we are now, a few years back, I was asked to be charged with this whole idea of bringing the constituency groups together and really having some efforts to address shared governance and concerns that folks throughout Thomas Nelson was having. And so that's what we did. We developed these areas of different committees that would be working on different areas in regards to shared governance. And so where we are at this point is there were 4 committees that were created. Those 4 committees consist of communications, webpage, philosophy, and the subcommittee that works on the subgroups of our committees that govern the college, govern the work that we do. And so 2021, where we are now, Paul, I think this is where you pick up.
Thank you. So when this was initiated several years ago, we made sure that we had large representation from all of the constituency groups. And for example, Dr. Hollins, Dr. Harris, Jerry, Dr. Segura, Cheryl Sparrow, Ursula Bach are all, well, at least were part of this meeting. And Stephen Felker as well represented cabinet, mid-level managers. Ursula Bach was there, faculty, Marion Clifton and myself represented, and Ian Taylor represented faculty senate. And we had other faculty members as well. The CSSA, Sergeant Shannon, and also CSSA leader Michelle Schonk is also part of our group. There is great representation, and the dynamics of those meetings is really fantastic. And I think that what we should do in the future is just make those meetings available for attendance. Generally, that's something we can bring up at the meeting, because I think it would be a great benefit for everyone to hear shared governance actually happening within the context of meetings. We have actually created a web presence. Michelle Shank and Mohammed with the publications department have created a web page, but we're actually working to develop it more. And after we resume our meeting shortly, we're going to have an entire site that's going to be indexed and with a table of contents and links to all of the different components, where you'll have the definition, the philosophy, different practices in the form of toolkits. And Keisha is going to speak to that a little bit later. And that's pretty much it. That's where we're at now, where we're going. Keisha.
Yes, and some of our other accomplishments that we've had with shared governance is we were able to reconvene all of our committees and get representation for all of our governing committees throughout the college. We were able to establish a common language. We were tasked with identifying, and we worked with social justice and societal change to identify a common language, so that when we're talking about shared governance, we know exactly what it is, and we also have we know what it is not. And so we spent a great deal of time coming up with that common language. We have also presented at every one of the constituency groups. We have been invited to come. We provide information about shared governance and how their particular constituency group can continue to work with us. And so as we look at what is coming up next, we have some of our priorities are to continue the communication that we have that is going on. We're at the time where we need to be looking at the committees for representation for next year, who will be representing those committees. We made a very, I just cannot say enough about the group that worked to make sure that we could get those up and running. We also will be developing a training that is coming up for our chairs. One of the things that came out of shared governance was that professional development, and we know that we have an excellent Center for Teaching and Learning that is led by Lindsay LeMay. And so we want to continue on that vein of working with our chairs. And also we are partnering with social justice and societal change in regards to healing circles. There's a team at NOVA who will be working with us. We wanted to facilitate our own healing circles, but we were advised by our mentor from the Truth and Racial Healing Center that we were just not in a place to be able to do that effectively. And so we are partnering with a team at NOVA, and that's being led by Dr. Patrick Smith and Professor Marion Clifton as we move forward. So we have really tried, as you can see what's on the screen, some of the other things that are forthcoming, but we really just want to get the message out that we are working. We know everyone is working. This is a very robust committee that meets. We were meeting every 3 weeks. We did not meet in January, and our meetings will resume in 2 weeks from now, and we will have 3 upcoming meetings for the remainder of the year. So that's what's on the horizons for shared governance. Paul, did I leave out anything?
No, other than I think the last point here, that the policies, procedures, and improvements. One of the things that came out in a recent meeting with the Faculty Senate Executive Board, I believe it was, I go to so many meetings, I get them confused, was that could be one of the roles of the Shared Governance Committee, is actually to be sort of a central point to take a look at and evaluate or address concerns that individuals have with regards to policies and procedures that are happening at the college that might seem to be problematic for some reason. And as the name suggests, the shared governance is all about sharing. And the most important thing about sharing is to establish effective means of communicating and effective means of conducting meetings and setting up the expectations for the conducting of those meetings. And that's in large part what this toolkit of best practices for implementation and the professional development is going to intend to do, is to create these guidelines, how-to guides, just to let people know this is what, based upon our understanding of shared governance, would be effective and what has been effective in terms of what we've already been able to implement within our own meetings. And we really look forward to sharing all this with you.
Thank you, Ada. We tried to do it in 5 minutes.
I know you guys are super fast. We will not let this be the last time that we talk about shared governance during town hall. We will circle back with you and figure out a better method to be able to get that message.
Put it first. That's the better method.
Right. Well, that's what I chatted with you is we'll put it first on the next one. So you can, it's just like a teaser. And then we will be able to have you guys start for the next town hall. And then circle back to the things that the other topics that came in from our constituency group. So thank you for that. And thank you to all the presenters. I just want to share, you don't have to wait for a town hall to ask questions. We are all here. Most of us are on campus every single day, and so, send questions. If you've got issues with either facilities or IT, there's work order systems to be able to submit those to make sure that we're seeing trends and we're able to address them. You certainly don't need to wait for a town hall if there's a question that's burning or something that needs to be addressed. We do have just a few quick announcements for those of you who are still on the call. We have decided that we have firmed up the plans for spring 2022 commencement. And here is our information. We are going to host in-person commencement for our students for the first time in several years. We have secured a contract at Liberty Live, which is right on Big Bethel Road, which will be incredibly convenient for our students and their families. It will also be live streamed for those who are not able to attend in person. And we are also going to reach out to the class of 21 and 20. If they are interested in walking because they didn't get to have that opportunity, we're going to be able to have them do that with us as well. Now, this is in its infancy of planning. There is a enormous committee that has been put together to try to make sure that we are hearing from everybody, getting the input that we need to have in order to make this a really special and spectacular event for our students. So please mark your calendars and please join us in celebrating the last graduating class of Thomas Nelson, because next year will be the first graduating class of Virginia Peninsula Community College. We have scheduled the next town hall for March 18th at 2 o'clock. We hope that you will join us on that. We will start with shared governance and then we will launch into some other things. So hopefully you'll mark your calendars for that and we will get that invitation going very, very soon. Continue to work with your groups. Being on a committee means being involved in that, showing up to those meetings, making sure that your voice is heard. Work with your constituency groups, make sure that you are asking questions of them and having them share information. We share a lot of information out and we want to make sure that it's getting to everyone. So that two-way communication is very, very important. And of course, great ideas, submit your great ideas and hopefully we can follow up with you. So we appreciate you. Thanks for staying over time and enjoy your weekend. Take care, everyone.